Hank Brown getting the start for the Tigers is the best case scenario for Auburn.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We are dapping it up on this Wednesday with the Darrell Daprich, Montgomery radio legend. I got a few thoughts about this with Saturday's game. We'll touch on that later in the show, as well as, what the deciding factor for who's going to start at quarterback this Saturday may be. But Darrell, you and I both agree that Hank Brown getting the nod to be Auburn's newest starting quarterback is the best case scenario for the Auburn Tigers moving forward.
On multiple fronts. Number one, I think it's Hank Brown's time to see what he can do from a decision-making, gunslinging, not holding on to the ball, let it rip perspective that we've seen before. And what better time to do that? I am not, and I repeat, not being disrespectful of an opponent. I'm just laying out facts and stats. New Mexico's defense is not very good. It's horrific. Their offense could be a problem. We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
But defensively, this is the best time to run the experiment and put Hank Brown in. For that reason, just the Hank Brown scenario. Number two, if you're talking about reducing or condensing the playbook and making it more simple, then why not? This is the ultimate time to do it for the redshirt freshman. I don't think you have to for Hank Brown personally. I think he's a very, very intelligent, high IQ quarterback. Mm-hmm. But if you are going to do that, what better time to do that with the redshirt freshman? And then third, it might be best for Payton Thorne. Get away from all the noise, get on the sideline and watch and observe. Step back, get out of the heat, get out of the kitchen, watch the game from the sideline where it slows down some and observe and kind of disconnect from everything that's happening that apparently is flying at him too fast. Watch it from a different perspective. Auburn fans need to remember this. For the ones that are older, like me, Brandon Cox got benched because he was struggling like crazy for Cody Burns. And when Brandon Cox came back that year after getting benched, he played significantly better. By the way, the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos last Sunday, I'm not comparing Bo Nix to Jarrett Stidham. I'm comparing scenarios. Got benched by Brian Harsin against Georgia State because of the way he was playing. And he came back after that game against LSU when everyone wondered who he would start.
Incredible.
And let's remember the quarterback play from that LSU game to how he played against Arkansas and Ole Miss. And the first three quarters against Mississippi State was some of the best quarterback play that I've ever seen. In fact, a relationship was born out of that game when Darrell Daprich texted a young Zac Blackerby.
This is true.
Out of the blue and said, Kobe Hudson, natural wide receiver. And the relationship flourished from there, right? We started to communicate.
What a start.
But before he broke that leg, Zach, you were watching on TV. I was watching it in person. That was elite quarterback performance. It helped him. It slowed him down. It spurred him. It got his attention. Right? Got him focused. It got his attention. Same thing with Brandon Cox. Jason Campbell got benched for Daniel Cobb, by the way. So really going back, sometimes it helps to hit the reset button.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't think Payton Thorne ever thought at any point this offseason, going through spring, summer, and fall, that he was ever going to be pushed. And I think if there's an actual competition, it changes how you approach.
Amen.
Everything.
The iron sharpens iron thing. I don't think he ever felt like the job was in jeopardy and he was going to get pushed and therefore lost that edge. I think that edge comes back and resumes when your butt's on the sideline watching.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do from a pressure standpoint in practice, especially if you've already got the job locked down. And so, I mean, how can we be shocked that he can't stand the pressure when there wasn't really any pressure this offseason.
That's such a great point. My God, I wish we could put that on a billboard. People that complain that Payton Thorne is not reacting well through adversity and the pressure cooker is because through practice and the quarterback race, he never was provided any adversity.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to go out really technically. We feel like he did against Robbie Ashford last year, but I don't think so. Looking back on it, hindsight, dude. So let's say that now, let's say you throw the freshman into the fire. Well, in New Mexico, he looks great, plays against Arkansas. When something happens, if it happened, and Hank Brown struggled, who better to go to than a 4-year veteran on the sideline that has now sat and watched for a couple games to bring in that you have confidence that's got all these.
Oh, and he's going to be ready to go, or at least he's going to want it way more than he does currently. I'm with you. I'm with you. I also think I said this on yesterday's show, and I think you'll agree. If it's close between Hank and Payton, if it's close, go with the guy who has 4 years left of eligibility. Because to me, like everything about the future of this Auburn program was in the 2025 and 2026 seasons. I mean, that's what you're recruiting for right now. And let's go ahead and see what we got. Let's go ahead and see the quarterback that's in line to be the veteran quarterback in that room during the 2025 and 2026 season. Let's see what you got. Or do you need to go drop $1 million or $1.5 million on a quarterback this December? Let's go ahead and get the answer to that. Mm-hmm. I think that's valuable, Darrell.
Well, I don't think we've ever done a show together where I feel like you are like right inside my brain, and everything you are saying.
Really, I feel like you say that every time we record together.
No, but sometimes there's little pushbacks, but that's fun, right?
Okay.
This you talk about simpatico in this scenario where everything. I feel like you're like. I
don't know what simpatico means. I don't know.
We get that. It's in tune. It's in sync, right?
Got it.
I could be. My lips could be moving. It's your words coming out. Here's the thing with that. It has to be a decided gulf or a really big separation, in my opinion, for you to start Payton Thorne over Hank Brown. If it's close, even a slight edge to Payton Thorne, you go with Hank Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about going out and getting a quarterback in the offseason in the transfer portal, I guess my question would be this. You know who was going to go to Liberty and play for Hugh Freeze 2 years ago, right?
That's right.
Do you think if Hugh Freeze was Liberty's coach right now and not Auburn's, and Hank Brown was at Liberty right now and not Auburn, would Hank Brown be Hugh Freeze's quarterback? Starting quarterback?
They're both at Liberty? Maybe.
Yes.
I don't know.
I say Salter is still the starter.
Okay, is he still there?
He's still there,
yes. Then probably not.
So it's kind of the same scenario. You're setting up Hank Brown to be the heir apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at Liberty, Hank Brown probably slides into that role next year. At Auburn, maybe you go out and get a guy in the portal. But that's where this is an interesting dynamic because they both were linked to each other. I talked about how Hugh Freeze hooked his wagon to Payton Thorne. To a certain aspect, he's done that with Hank Brown because he was going to take him as his quarterback at Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
And when he didn't, he followed him to Auburn. So they're linked too. That's why I think that it's not such an emotional decision that everyone thinks it is. People don't understand the emotional attachment Hugh Freeze has to Hank Brown. You know it. You know from talking to Hank Brown and the family that there is a link there that some don't know about, an emotional attachment. So it's not going to be that hard for him to pull the plug and play Hank Brown. He's linked to Hank Brown too. He's got an attachment to him.
Yeah, I mean, I really think about that aspect of it, but yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. I'm not going to push back against that at all. So I think for several reasons, I don't think you name Hank the starter for the rest of the year. But I think it's the best case scenario for a few reasons that we just listed out. Start Hank on Saturday. Start Hank on Saturday. Not for the rest of the season. Well, let's see what Hank does against New Mexico. Then if he earns it against Arkansas, keep him in until. But I don't know. I just think there's a lot of upside there. I think there's a lot of upside there for both Hank and potentially Payton Thorne, as you laid out there. So, like, what's going to decide this? Like, what can Hugh Freeze do this week to make this decision? We jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Ultimate College Football Head Coach. It's the best mobile app out there, Darrell, because look, we all want to put ourselves in Hugh Freeze's situation as far as, okay, I want to pick which quarterback I start. I want to decide if I want to value the portal over high school recruiting. At Ultimate College Football Head Coach, you can do just that. And Darrell, you know what the best thing is? You know what the best thing is?
I think it's because it's free.
It's all free.
Yeah, I mean, free is so great.
It's all free, and you can play offline. So if you've got a flight or something coming up, you don't have to worry about if you're going to have connection. It's completely free, has no ads. It's 100% playable on the go wherever you are. They've got a special deal for Locked On Auburn listeners. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps. You have to use all caps. Locked On CFB, no spaces, inside the game store, and you'll get a free boost to your program. Download the game by going to ultimate-cfb.com, or you can look it up on your phone's app store. Just search Ultimate College Football HC. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets for anything, Darrell. You know this firsthand, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, concert, the theater. There's no reason not to look at Game Time to buy your tickets.
Did a little browsing yesterday, really close to making a commitment to purchasing Steeler Bengal tickets the first week of January.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people that were going with us were like, oh, they're so expensive. We got on Game Time and found some nice seats at Acrisure Stadium. Lightning deals were there that far out. So again, I use it, and I pulled it up.
No, I use it too. We're going to the Pats Bengals game. We've got everything set but the ticket.
We both want to be seeing our favorite teams play the Bengals. No, wait a minute. The Pats already played the Bengals.
I'm sorry. We're playing the Texans. The game
yes, I was excited about beating the Bengals. I was thrilled.
You're welcome.
Yes,
I promise I was more excited about it. Yeah. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. All right. What's going to decide this? What's going to decide who starts? Like, what is Hugh Freeze looking at? Well, here's what we know. He met with both quarterbacks, and they went through, what sounds like an extensive film session where he, peppered Payton Thorne with questions, and then in another meeting, one-on-one with Hank Brown, peppered him with questions, rapid fire. And I'm sure both quarterbacks feel pretty good about how that went, but that was the first part of all this, is the mental aspect of it. I don't think anybody's questioning either quarterback's physical abilities. I think Hank Brown has an incredible deep ball, and I think, you've just heard from other folks talk about working out with Hank Brown and throwing with Hank Brown and catching with Hank Brown. It's all about, his accuracy. He's got the arm. I don't think that's up for debate here. Payton, I think, offers a little bit better of a running attack. And so, what does that look like? I don't know. Like, are you willing to sacrifice that to start Hank? We don't know how Hank is as a runner. I'm assuming Payton is more athletic, but I don't know that, but I'm assuming. So outside of those meetings, what do you think the next step is in all of this, Darrell?
Well, I was told that those meetings were very similar to like a psychological exam too, not just like breaking down film study. Like you said, it's very mental, very psychological analysis with scenarios thrown out, rapid fire questions, that kind of thing. So I think that was step one. Can't underestimate the one-on-one meetings that happened yesterday. Step two, how it's going to be decided is to watch how both respond in practice. Because here's the deal. It's not just how Payton Thorne handles what happened to him last week. It's also how Hank Brown responds to, why am I not playing after last week? There's an element of that a lot of quarterbacks would be frustrated about emotionally and mentally and go, my God, what do I have to do? Hank Brown's not that kind of kid. But how he responds to maybe not being named the starter right away, or maybe not being put in the game where he feels like, now's the time, give me a shot. We're not moving. This offense looks anemic. And how he responds to not getting put in the game is important. You talk about Payton Thorne maybe being the better option at the runner, when plays break down. I heard Hugh Freeze talk about that. Maybe if you get the guy that gets rid of the ball quicker.
There it is.
You don't have to worry about the plays breaking down, right? He gets rid of it. Boom.
Throw the ball on time and throw with anticipation. You don't need to do that.
You don't need to do that. You don't need to escape the pocket. You've got rid of the ball. And if you get hit after that, we can just add 15 yards to it. So I think he's watching the maturity of both and with how they handle practice, and then the physicality, the physical attributes of how they practice. Because we already know he puts a strong emphasis on that by what he said in the press conference 2 days ago about how, practice matters. And he said, okay, well, maybe now there's some things he looks at differently in practice. Maybe now Hank Brown closes the gap at practice. And like you said, if it's close. So I think he looks at that. And then here's the one that's a question mark to me.
Okay.
That I don't know. How does the team respond to either quarterback? Mm-hmm. Are there a lot of frustrated leaders and captains and returning players that are frustrated that a quarterback change isn't made, especially on the defensive side of the ball that played so well in the second half? Like, what are you doing to us? You're putting us in a bad situation. Why have you not gone to Hank Brown?
Yeah.
How does the team respond to what happened last week? What are their voices being heard? The leadership council, like that movie. It's funny. The meme is going around like that scene from Rudy where they all take the jerseys and lay them on the desk of the head coach because they want Rudy to play. I'm not saying that's happening, but I'm saying there's an undercurrent of how is the team responding to what they saw last Saturday, and if a change isn't made. You don't want to lose the locker room. That, I think, has to be a factor, too. It just does. Yeah.
I heard, just a quick note on that. Rudy, I heard, is now an NIU fan. Have you heard that?
I have heard that, yes.
People are saying. That's what people are saying. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much Hank can do in a week. At some point, like, you can only prove so much, and it's just, does the coaching staff want to take that risk or not? Are they at that point where they actually pull the trigger and make the change? I don't know. There's only so much Hank can do. A lot of this is going to be on freeze. Just, is the risk worth taking? And I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen this week.
The film session's crucial because Hank Brown had a tremendous opportunity, if asked, not to throw Payton Thorne under the bus, but if asked by Hugh Freeze, what would you have done in this situation? How would you have handled this read? This progression, and if Hank Brown had the right answers, that goes a long way too. It does. So maybe that went well for Hank on Monday. Maybe it didn't. We don't know. There's some other things about Saturday that I think we need to kind of keep in mind, especially with some of these injuries. How does Auburn respond with that? We discuss in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Darrell, today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Look, they've got something a little different going on. Any $5 bet at FanDuel, all customers, they get hooked up with a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. I'm going to be honest. I paid for Sunday Ticket this past weekend. Brutal. You don't have to worry about that if you go to FanDuel and put a $5 bet down. Don't love the over-under that we the 7.5 where we said over. Don't love that anymore. Our apologies on that. But Darrell, you know it. I know it. FanDuel's America's #1 sports book. They've got more props, odds, and lines, parlays than anything else out there. So visit FanDuel.com right now to download America's #1 sports book. Darrell, when you look at what could happen for Auburn this weekend, to me, I think the defense, like you said, New Mexico's offense, I think is okay. Defensively, don't wait until halftime to make a stand. To me, that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at on the defensive side of the ball. See if you can dominate early. See if you can get a big moment from Keldrick Falk, or does Malik Blockton play a little bit earlier in the snap count that we see moving forward? Because, I mean, he's been exceptional. Can you get a turnover quickly
against this New Mexico offense. Those are kind of the things I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think that Dampier, I think that's the name of the quarterback that New Mexico has. Dynamic with his feet, can extend plays. Auburn's going to really, really have to clean up the setting the edge, the containment part that they gave away in the first half like crazy with Mendoza when it looked like the play was dead and he kept his eyes downfield and kept finding it.
Yeah.
First 5 or 6 third down conversions were accurate. So do that with the dynamic quarterback for New Mexico. Pressure him, but understand that you better keep your containment because when you pressure him, he's a dynamic runner. But but the third point you made is the one I want to see more than anything else is early on, get a stinking turnover.
Yeah.
You're -7 in the turnover margin right now, and you've played an FCS school. Just get a couple turnovers, get a turnover to kind of get that momentum going. The sacks and the crushing the pocket is going to look different Saturday with this quarterback. So how DJ Durkin handles that, maybe he doesn't. He keeps a spy on this kid because he probably needs one. That's the big thing from a defensive standpoint, and besides the turnovers. And then offensively, this tackle rotation.
Before you move over to the offense, containment I think is another thing. Like, can you pursue the quarterback while maintaining rush lanes? Like the containment was not good.
Right.
Was not good at all. And so to me, I think that falls on, in most situations, that falls on Jalen McLeod, who's actually been really quiet to start the year, as well as Kieran Crawford. We heard nothing but incredible things with how dynamic these guys were going to be during fall camp. And so far that has not been the case. So let's see it. Kieran, Jalen McLeod, go get the quarterback, keep contained. To me, that's a big thing that I think has kind of fallen short so far this year on the defensive side of the ball. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's why I said it's good. That's why I said it's going to look different because I agreed with you. I said the containment.
Yeah,
and that's why you may have to put a spy on him because just rushing, pinning your ear back and rushing him and crushing the pocket, he'll step up and go and take off and 20, 30 yards downfield. It's a problem. So you do have to keep contained. You do have to have rushing lanes, integrity, have a spy. But then on the other side of that, if he continues to keep his eyes downfield, I mean, the secondary's got to play better than they did in the first half. Turn around, play the ball, that kind of thing. So I look for that. I think Auburn is really doing a great job against stopping the run. Continue that. I mean, they're doing a good job, a really good job at stopping the run. And I think New Mexico will not be able to run it effectively on Auburn at all. Anything they get offensively is going to be on the arms and the feet of their quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the offensive line, how they handle that with Miller being hurt is going to be interesting. I like the idea of Percy Lewis at right tackle. I mean, he looks like a right tackle to me, just with his overall size. So we'll see if he gets the nod or if they move D-Wade all the way to left tackle and keep Tyler Johnson in to move him to right tackle. That'll be interesting. And I think that'll be telling with how they think and view both of those tackles behind D-Wade is like who gets more reps at right tackle. I think that'll be interesting too.
Chambers has played some. I think Hugh Freeze has complimented him on his run blocking, not so much on his pass pro. And so that's why I think you're going to see Auburn kind of revert back to what we used to see years ago when it was heavy on the run against these overmatched opponents, still put up 50, still try to put up 50 points, but 60-40 run to pass. Depends on who the quarterback is. I mean, I get it. I think.
Well, and that'll probably be a full show at some point this week. It's like, how do you handle that? Like, regardless of who it is, I think you want to put the pressure on the quarterback. If it's Payton or if it's Hank, especially if it's Payton, I think you want to try to put as much pressure on him and say, all right, we're going to beat him with your arm. Let's see what you got.
You gain nothing if you run it 60% of the time and rack up 280 yards on the ground, and Payton Thorne is 10 of 15 for 150 yards, right?
Doesn't help.
It doesn't help you. You don't gain anything. You don't learn anything. You got to see if he can sling it all over, make the right progressions, make the right reads, and get rid of the ball quicker. But I don't know if we're going to be able to. to see that, Zach, with this New Mexico defense. I really don't.
I'm with you.
I think we're not going to be able to tell much. Again,
you never want to go into one of the, like, you only get so many game days, but like, you don't want to go into it thinking like there's really not a whole lot to pick up from this one, but there may not be. If Payton Thorne starts, I guess you see how long they keep him in for. Like if they go up, 2 or 3 scores quickly, do they sub Hank in just to see? That'll be interesting. But outside of that, if Payton's the starter, I don't really know what else to look at unless he struggles. And it's like, oh my goodness. Okay. What are we going to do moving forward?
And keep in mind that Tatora McMillan, who's one of the best receivers in the country, Arizona had a receiver go for over 300 yards against New Mexico. One receiver.
You just can't help yourself.
Well, I'm making a comparison that if they have one dude going over 300 yards, Auburn's receivers should eat. Why would you run it?
Who's your favorite Arizona player of all time? This is an easy answer. This is such an easy answer. Why are you thinking about this?
Because I have many. I started watching them in the 70s. A guy named Chuck Cecil is my favorite Arizona player of all time.
Okay.
It's not Teddy Bruschi. You want to say that, don't you? You wanted me to say that.
I actually wanted you to say Gronk.
Could not stand him in Arizona.
Sweet. Got it.
Too much hype.
Couldn't stand him when he was owning your Pittsburgh Steelers either.
Correct.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
I apologize earlier in the broadcast when I got so emotional. I think my voice squeaked. I thought I hit puberty there for a second, so I apologize on that. But you can catch me on X, DAP6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap, and then Wednesdays, Fridays, and then our fun reaction show on Sunday mornings that we drop after games. And over there in the barn, Auburn.com.
Yep.
Also, let me say one other thing. We have opened up a little virtual store for people that wanted to get merchandise from the show. It's on my socials, Zach's socials. You can check it out. It's a virtual store, and it will just drop ship right to your house. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I'll drop that link in the episode description down below. Yeah, check out thebarnauburn.com as well. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.